Hello, and we're live with my friend Kellan Brown. So excited to have her. She's a chief growth officer at a fintech startup named Income Lab. So I have so many questions about the Income Lab. She has devoted her professional career to building mentorship programs within firms and industry. She also sits on advisory board for the FinServe Foundation. It's a nonprofit with the mission to help bring the next generation of leaders into the financial service industry with the greatest tools for success through mentorship, coaching, connections. So I'm sure you know, guys, why we're having this conversation. I mean, mentorship is a huge part of growth and something that I deeply believe in. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Anya. I hate to put this out in the public, but I'm going to. Half the reason I wanted to do this was just to spend time with you because I miss seeing you. So proud of what you've achieved. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, friend. And I asked Ellen behind the stage, I said, hey, do you have a story about a bad boss in your life? Was there a bad boss? And she's like, oh, yeah. So do you want to share with the audience like your story about bad boss?
I will. So let's start where I was in college. So like many others, we come out of the university and we're saying, okay, I'm ready to take over the world, right? We land our first job. We're ready to launch into this career, ready to make $1 million and just change the world. Well, I ended up starting with a sports marketing firm, boutique firm, and I was reporting directly to the CEO of the company. She is a female, and what was really interesting about that relationship is that it became incredibly competitive, belittling, just somewhat aggressive. And what was fascinating is I didn't actually know that it was happening. And the reason why was because
Mm.
it was my very first job. So I just thought this was how it goes. And so it
Oh,
wasn't until I was visiting my sister and she had heard me on the phone. I was actually on a video conference call. And this was, before the Zoom became the norm. But we were on a call and my little sister said, "Is that how she normally talks to you?" And I said, "Yeah," and I didn't realize how poorly this
yeah.
relationship was going. And so it was in that moment that I said, I'm going to give myself 30 days. If I can find a job, great. If I can't, I'm going to give my notice anyway. And I
Yeah.
said, I have two options. I can either take this as an example and follow this path, or I can make an incredible change. And anyone that I end up working with, I can help them grow and lift them up as opposed to having that combative and destructive relationship. So that is truly what started my mentorship journey, is what
Thank
not to be.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can really resonate without revealing our age. I feel like both you and I have been in corporate careers for like a while. And back then, it was totally normal. Putting you down was
Yeah.
normal. And I'm glad that you're saying it's like being in a mentally, emotionally abusive relationship. You kind of get used to it and you think this is what it is. And until someone points out, and like, I'm so happy your sister was able to point out and say, this is not okay. And I think of so many young generation right now, young workforce that are coming into the culture, into environment, which again, they never built relationships. They've never built in the office. They don't know what it's like to play on a softball team. I just had a training today in the morning and people said, I miss being in person. I miss having lunches. So they're being
Yeah.
introduced to culture. And if it's a toxic culture, like you said, that becomes kind of their standard. This is how work is. You just suck it up,
Yeah.
and you do what you're told to do. Oh, this is like, yeah, it
And
hits
it's
home. I've had, yeah.
Yeah, and you feel there was this, our generation came up with the sense of if you start something, you have to complete it, right? So we were floating in
Quitters.
that, how long are we supposed to stay in the career, right? Because our parents made it their lifelong career, like one job, two job max is what I felt like. And now we're seeing movement. If there's not culture, if there's not commitment to growth, you have the opportunity to make change. And I was really, really struggling with that because in my core, I felt like I was failing some way because I wasn't sticking
Yeah.
through it. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized, no, you need to look out for yourself. You need to foster something better for your personal growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you're bringing up, and I also know you to be a leader who is very inclusive. So tell me more about this mentorship programs and how do you see mentorship, especially measurable mentorship, right? That is kind of that's what I talk a lot with companies when we go in and build culture, right? A lot of it is like how do we create the body system for onboarding when someone is new and is just entering, like how do we create mentorship? So yeah, tell me what's your experience been like.
So I think the buddy system is one of the best systems out there. If you don't have a built program, a built mentorship program yet, the buddy program is fantastic because it's not reporting directly to your manager. It's creating a relationship within the company so that they can answer questions that you might not feel comfortable asking. And I know
Safe, yeah.
yeah, and we say that all the time, but it really does create a different type of relationship, and that culture and that bond you get to help grow with those new people coming in. Uh,
Yeah.
but when we talk about structured mentorship programs, this all started after I left that sports marketing firm. I ended up moving into a company called Primeco. And the gentleman and founder named Brett Musgrove, also out of San Diego, Anya, I stayed with them for 8.5 years. And
Ooh, that's a commitment.
I loved it. I'm a career changer due to COVID and young kids. I probably would have stayed there even longer had I not had to be in person. But what we built there was phenomenal. And what he saw in me was she has opportunity, she has drive. I'm going to give her the tools that I can teach, but then I'm also going to provide her the opportunity to find ones that I cannot. Right? So finding
Yeah.
the women-led networks within the industry, making sure that I was getting the sales coaching and training to become a manager and an executive. Not
Yeah.
many bosses really put themselves out there to invest like that in people. So once I experienced that drastic shift, I couldn't
Hmm.
tell you how much I wanted to pay it forward. And so we built
Yeah.
a mentorship program at Primeco from the bottom up, and what I call that's more like an organic program. It wasn't until I got to the financial service industry where I said, wow, we have an opportunity here. And so much technology now and AI can actually support mentorship programs if you build it out properly. So at Finance of America, we did that. And we built out a test program to see if we could make it go enterprise wide. And we brought a committee together where we said, okay, let's interview vendors to see who can help with the matching, kind of thinking of it like
Yeah.
match.com, right? Where you're dating
Yeah,
someone.
matchmaking. How do you match? Yeah, the needs, the desires,
Exactly.
the
So
skills, capacities. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was fantastic. And the reason why I say that these technologies are so valuable to these programs is because oftentimes you have companies where some executives don't truly buy into the mentorship concept yet, right? So my thought was, how can we make this measurable and show them the cost value? So set aside the fact that the top Fortune 50 companies, every single one of them has a mentorship program.
Yeah.
The Fortune 100, 96% of them have mentorship programs.
Oh,
Um, but like if you do the data, I think it shows 18% better profits on average for companies that have a mentorship program. So you're talking bottom line value add here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And tell me, if somebody doesn't have it yet and wants to start, when we're thinking about a structure, because I know in my audience, there are a lot of HR leaders who, again, believe in this, but in order for them to sell this initiative, they need to show measurable impact. What are maybe 2 or 3 metrics that you would suggest for them to kind of pay attention to show value?
Great question. Okay, the most important one I would say is um, promotions. So Wharton did a study um, on mentorship programs throughout, all of the business, a number of businesses. But anyway, what it showed was mentors that participated in programs were promoted 6 times more than ones that were not, mentees 5 times more. So promotion, I think,
Wow.
is one. Two, retention.
Yeah.
Think about how much we spend, and Anya, you know better than anybody else
Oh,
working with all the
yeah.
HR firms, how much time we spend, how much money we spend bringing in new talent, developing new talent. If you have these programs that foster the culture that
Yeah.
you are looking to implement into that, it's life changing. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I also like the confidentiality of it because what I think you mentioned it in just 5 minutes ago that sometimes as an employee, I don't have that trust built in, and you can tell me all day long that Anya, we have an open door policy. Anybody can come and speak about anything. But sometimes I don't want to talk to my manager. I don't want to talk to my direct supervisors. I haven't built the trust yet and psychological safety. So I think if I could have a mentor within organization where I could be transparent, where I did know that this was, and again, as much as we can, like confidential, where someone can really help me like overcome my individual challenges, which a lot of times it's interpersonal. It even
Yes.
has nothing to do with your skills. It's how we kind of self sabotage our careers because of interpersonal relationships. So that would be another benefit to retention is to have that kind of like safe space with my mentor. And I have that. I have a mentor. I've always had a mentor who would say, "Hey, what am I not seeing? What's my part in this? Right? Can
Yes.
you give me some feedback? Can you reflect something to me? Because we all have blind spots. So that's the benefit I see. And I don't know, how do you think how possible it is to have that element of confidentiality?
Well, for the programs themselves, and when you talk about things that maybe firms that haven't had a mentorship program that they can implement, is actually signing a contract. The only
Mm,
time we break code to that relationship is if we feel that the mentee is in harm's way. That's the
yes.
only time that we break that code. And we also don't align the mentees with mentors that are in the same department. So we separate them. So one, there's a different type of creativity to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important as well. Like these people want to see growth. They want to make
Yeah.
change. Um,
Yeah.
but it's Anya, funny. Like if I was to say to you right now, like who's your person at work? Do you have one of those?
Well, because I work for myself, right? It's hard, but I'm so grateful to be part of entrepreneur organization and prerequisite to joining is a certain income level, right? So I have a peer group with other who are at my level, which to me is really important because they understand the challenges, right? Having a $500,000 business versus million versus $10 million business like comes with its own challenges. So yeah, and I do have a mentor within that peer network. I actually have a couple. I have a male mentor that I go for very specific things because he's so different. I'm all about people and relationships, and what I struggle with is metrics, data, accountings. Like he's my unofficial CFO that I can go to and say, a lot of money and we spend a lot of money. Why is that? And just having like that
Yeah.
support, which I know this is my weakness. So I sought out someone who's very like metric driven. And I think there is a reverse mentorship because in our relationship, and that's what I believe that even if you are so far ahead than I am, there is always something to learn from each other. And I feel that most successful mentorship relationships that I personally had we're always learning from each other because even if you're an executive role I think it's so interesting for you to learn what am I struggling with at my level because again it might be a
Yes.
blind spot for you.
So I love that. I couldn't agree more, Anya, and we lean into that a lot when we're talking with the students that we work with. So I mentioned I sit on the board of directors for a nonprofit called the FinServe Foundation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, those students that are coming into the financial service space, we get on panels and talk about students that have gone through this previously and what they learned and how to take advantage of it. And
Yeah.
I was sitting on that panel interviewing those students. It must have been maybe a month ago, and one of the people in the audience said, Kellan, I have a question for you. What are you learning from these students? And I love that question, because if you're not
Yeah,
paying attention to the value that they're bringing to your growth, oh my gosh, are you missing something? Because
exactly.
we lean so heavily into how this is how fast the industry is moving. This is how fast life is moving. Well, guess what? It's new for us,
Yeah,
but it's
the
not
world
new
is
for the
changing.
next generation. This is what they grew up in.
Exactly.
This is what they're used to, right? Amazon,
I
boom,
know.
shows up at the doorstep. This is normal. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
totally.
really
The
cool
world,
to be able
yeah.
to.
The world is changing, and I'm seeing, like, as much as we're like complaining about the next generation and the newer generation, there's so much to learn from them and their adaptability, right, to the workforce and the way they're changing the workforce. Because I can tell you, when we started our conversation about toxic corporate environment, they're the ones who are now saying, this is not okay. You will not treat me this way. And they're forcing this change and change the norms and standards of our interpersonal relationships that I feel like we didn't even know it was possible. I look at them and I feel like, even for my kids, I'm like, wow, this is so badass. You guys are so
It
courageous.
is. They are, and it's acceptable. So
Yeah.
I'm attending an all women's event here in November. And they asked, what's so important about these events now? And I think the biggest thing that I always take away from this is, you know, a decade ago, we were all fighting for like one seat at the table.
Yeah.
Now we have the opportunity to work together, bring each other up, show them how the
Hmm.
path is, talk about referrals, give advice, teach them how to pump in the car when you've got sales reps with you. I mean, like, there are lots of things that happen.
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
right, you have those women to like make that difference, and it has changed. And that next
Yeah.
generation is going to do something even better.
I agree with you. And I feel like, again, we took it to that next level and now they're like 10x in it. And for them to have leaders like us, because what I think happened, like you said, with your first job, there were two options, right? I either become like you, become
Yep.
very different than you. And I think a lot of women stepped into very masculine way of leadership because those were the only examples we had. We didn't have other examples. We're like, well, the perception is, in order to succeed, I have to be a jerk. Like, that's the only way you can succeed. And now we're like, oh no, there are many examples. You can be generous. You can love people you work with, which was like, you don't talk about love at work. And I'm like, I love people I work with. And it feels so good to say that and to care about people, which again is unheard of. So I love what you're doing. So tell me, I know we have a couple of minutes left. Tell me about your, because it was so fascinating for me to see your new title with Income Lab as the Chief Growth Officer. What does it mean? What are we growing?
Yeah. I so when I was talking to the founder, he had witnessed me throughout the industry and really said, I'm going to find a place for you at Income Lab. I want you a part of the team. It was one of the greatest honors of my career. And he said, where do you see yourself? And I was like, I'll write my job description. I was like, I want to be your
Oh,
chief growth officer, and I'll tell you exactly why. So I wrote
yeah.
my job description and I defined it in three separate categories. One was growth of revenue, one was growth of people, and one was growth of industry. So our pillars
Mm,
exist on how can we bring up our people to be their greatest selves? And then how can we make really not just disruption and change within the industry, but how can we make true impact and growth in that as well? And then
yeah.
lastly, we're a startup, right? We are going to see growth within sales and revenue, and we are going to get gritty and we are going to work our butts off to get there. And that's what I've realized I'm really good at. And that's what I leaned into for this role.
Uh, I love it. And I love the concept of like growing people, whether it's through mentorship or through coaching. I have this whole module I teach managers on like how to have growth conversations. And growth conversations are really about retention. Because it's like we make this
Yes.
assumption, right? That it's like people are going to be with us for the next 5 years. But I think, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I read the other day that it's actually less than half people see themselves a year from now with the same company. So if you can have those
Yeah.
growth conversations, see where do you see yourself grow? What is available? What's possible? What's the path? Where's the company going? Where are you going? Where am I going? How can I support you? I just love the word growth because I feel like there's so
Yes.
much to it.
And Anya,
So thank you.
it's
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you, yeah, you lean into that space as well of we're concentrating on the person as a human, right? Not a salesperson, not an HR executive, not someone in finance. We are literally talking about a person here. Foster them to their core, and they will be the best employee.
Exactly. And that loyalty, right? Loyalty that I
Oh,
feel, because if you
yes.
ask someone who was, and I actually did that. I was at a conference last week in Dallas, and I had a room more than 100 people, and I said, what is the boss that you remember? What is it that you remember about them? And we talked about it. Someone who saw your potential before you saw it. Like, this is
Exactly. That
it.
is
It's like
exactly it.
I see something in you that maybe you don't even believe you're capable of. But I can already see it. I can predict it. And then I can strategically mentor you, grow you, and help you step into that role while I'm holding the container, right? For you to be like, oh,
Exactly.
yeah, I do that good, right? Like you said, it took you a while to be like, I'm really talented at this thing. And that's what's hard because things that we're really good at are usually very natural to who we are and we don't see them as a gift. I'm like, that's just who I am. You're like,
So
Anya, you
true.
just moved here 2 years ago. You have so many friends. I'm like, I do. That's just who
Oh my
I
gosh, you
am. Like,
do.
I let
You have
people like
so many friends,
I go
Anya.
around.
Your network is amazing. I love it. I love it.
Natural, right? That's what I'm saying. People were like, wow, that's a real gift. I'm like, it is a gift. I'm just being me walking around. Like, it's not strategy. It's like, and that's what I mean. So I think as a mentor, you can see like what is that gift, what is the thing that is so natural to this person that I can help amplify, and there's no bigger joy in that. Thank you so much. It was such a
Thank
pleasure to learn from you and chat with you, and you're such a great example. If there are people, and especially more and more women are entering now fintech, and you have been such again a pioneer, you've been so successful in this industry. Where can they learn more about the foundation?
Yeah. So if you're looking to get into financial services, go to finservfoundation.org. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Kellan Brown, or you can email me at kellan@incomelab.io.
Good. Samantha Bonner just said, Kellen, you're amazing. I love watching you change the industry and the world. Yes.
Love
I know.
Sam. Love you, Sam.
We love you. Thank you so much for sharing about a mentorship program, and I'll make sure to promote it and send it to my partners. And I really truly hope that every company, how no matter how big or small, create some strategic and like more structured mentorship program so we can all grow each other.
Exactly. And if anyone ever needs help, reach out, please, because it is such an honor to share what we've learned.
Thank you. Thanks, Kellen. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
thanks everybody.